Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative Podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions on the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, anything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on social media, you know me as PD Beats. You will recognize my guest from a film called Capone, which got released yesterday. We are with Gino Cafarelli. Gino, welcome to Popternative, man.
Well, thanks, buddy. Thank you for having me, man. I love the name Popternative.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started off, it was like, I was interviewing, people from pop culture, and I was interviewing some people from indie projects. So I took the alt out of alternative and I added the pop.
I like it because I'm a big marketing guy too. When you create a good product or you think of a good product, you always have to have some great marketing behind it. So it's definitely very catchy, and I like it. I like the logo.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Whether, people act, they, write, they direct, they do music, you're all storytellers. When did Gino Cafarelli decide he wanted to be a storyteller?
Well, a big influence was Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners as the character Ralph Cramden. It was a big New York show, but I mean, a very, very popular show. They don't make sitcoms like that. For me, it's like the number one sitcom of all time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone kind of pegs me as like a comedy guy. I love comedy, and I could be very funny. I almost wanted to stand up. I did some emceeing at a lot of stand-up comedy clubs back in the 90s. But Jackie Gleason had a big influence on me. I wanted to be an entertainer, and loving movies and great TV. More movies when I was a kid. I was always just inspired to want to like tell stories, and fast forward like years later, I was learned a little bit of a valuable and great lesson when I was living in LA. Write what you know, and everything else will follow.
No, absolutely. I find it interesting too, because you see a lot of people, like you mentioned, stand-up comedy, a lot of people in the entertainment industry, they're wearing many hats. They're acting, they're writing, they're doing stand-up, they're producing. How important is it for you specifically to do many different things and wear many hats?
Well, I was always that person back when I first started. I was in corporate America. I went to college. I got a degree in marketing management, but always wanted to be an actor. Always wanted to make film or be involved with film or television, but I got my degree out of the way. I was a pharmacy major and then became a business major. It took me a while to get my degree, but I got it. But when I say as far as like the marketing, years ago, like I felt like I was all over the place because I was like, well, I want to act and then I want to produce and I just want to like package it and market it and it's got to be viable. So I felt like I was wearing a lot of hats back then. That was always my mentality. Yep. And I always kind of got from, I guess my peers, like, you got to focus on one thing. 20 years later, it's like, people, they start using the term Renaissance woman or Renaissance man. I'm kind of glad I was wearing a lot of hats back then because, if you want to act and then you want to get behind a camera, you need set experience. And, back then they may have frowned upon it and said you're not really focusing on one thing. But I think it's beautiful that people know how to storytell, act, edit their own projects, like do it all, wear a lot of hats. Like, I do my own merchandising and artwork and, marketing like T-shirts and hats for when films come out. So like, to me, I've always kind of been doing that. And now people look at it as like, oh, you're a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman and you wear a lot of hats. So I'm a big fan of that stuff.
No, for sure. So came out yesterday, your new film, Capone. Amazing cast. Like that's the first thing that I did. Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's one of those things where there's the cast, there's like yourself who's in The Irishman, there's Linda Cardellini from Dead to Me, there's of course Tom Hardy, there's Noel Fisher from Shameless. It's such an amazing cast.
One of my besties, Catherine Narducci, who's like a sister to me, who winds up playing Capone's sister Rosie. Mm-hmm. The beautiful thing about that film, again, everyone's gonna have their own opinion. Like for me, I love film, I love storytelling. It's beautiful to do something different. It's beautiful to take risks. So the fact that Josh was going forward and taking risks and creating a piece of art, everyone's going to have their little opinion and they're entitled to it. but some things are not going to be for everyone. Like for me, it's a win-win. I got to be in a great film, a great supporting cast behind it. You know, I worked with Josh Trank in the past on another film called Big Fan, and I got to know Josh, so I knew what he was going for. And again, people have a different palate. People are going to love it. People are going to hate it. You know, there's mixed review, but I'm grateful that Josh gave me the opportunity, and I was grateful to work with a bunch of great actors in the supporting cast, and Tom, being one of those actors that is doing studio films too. So again, it's a win-win. I don't want to get cliche and say people that are going to be haters out there. They're going to be haters. But for me, I look at it as, again, the cliche saying art is subjective. I thought it was an incredible ensemble. It was told from a different point of view.
Yeah.
Again, it's not for everybody. Maybe most people were thinking they were going to see a shoot 'em up gangster film. I mean, they've been done a million times. And when they're done, they got to be done great. And when they're done bad, they're done bad. So this was from a different point of view.
This was the later days of Al Capone.
Yeah, it's never been told, and it's refreshing to see different stories.
No, it's for sure, because on this show I interview a lot of different people aside from the athletes. I interview the storyteller. I don't often ask the athletes the storyteller question, but like everyone else, like musicians, writers, directors, performers, even the pro wrestlers, man, because it is it's storytelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course it's storytelling. It's theater, man. It's like a theater with music and stuff. Again, getting back to the lots of hats. I love to wear a lot of hats. I mean, again, it's the only way that I learned hands-on. I eventually want to direct my own feature.
Yep.
I co-wrote a script with someone, and I wrote a sole script, 2 scripts that are in development, and I want to eventually direct a feature. I directed a small featurette up to less than 20 minutes. And then they call shorts. It's still a short, but still 20 minutes. Catherine Narducci's in it. Joe Maruzzo's in it. He wrote it as a play, and I wanted to take baby steps, and I wanted to direct. So I directed this film called Bricklayer's Poet, and it's just about two people in a bar, 2 actors. One's a bricklayer, one's a poet, and they get to know each other in 20 minutes. And it's hard to tell a story within 20 minutes. Let alone 2 actors at a bar, and it's beautifully written, it's beautifully acted. I'm very proud of the film, and that's what I eventually want to do down the road is direct.
But when you talk about like trendy content out there, I feel like that type of content, like you said, 2 people talking, chatting at a bar, I feel like that's kind of like, that's real. I feel like people want real content. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was always a fan of like real stories, like films like 29th Street, films like Two Family House, Pope of Greenwich Village, Rocky, all these films that today are very hard to get made. So kudos to all the filmmakers that get their movies made, because that's the hardest part. Mm-hmm. Like I was on a 10-year journey trying to get my film Cruise made, that's currently on Hulu. I was an EP on it. It's loosely based on me growing up in Queens. That was a 10-year process. But again, it was all through relationships and being patient and time and experience. I met Rob Siegel, who wrote and directed it on Big Fan 10 years ago, and I came up with an idea. But someone can have an idea. You have to follow through on your idea. So that was a 10-year journey.
Yep.
We worked together on it. My story, he wrote and directed it. And it was a 10-year journey, but it came out. And again, very proud of it, because you're full circle in life, and you do stuff that's authentic and true to you and from your heart. It all works out in the end.
No, absolutely. That's cool that you brought up those projects. It's a lot of fun. Another project that
Have you seen Cruise?
I've not yet.
Well, you look like you're probably in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there was a thing we did back then. It was our social media. We hopped in cars, and we listened to music back in the 80s, and we cruised the boulevard. And it was the best days of my life, and listened to incredible music, dance music. And it was a cheap night out, but it was a fun night out. So
it's available now, like to watch?
Yeah, it's on Hulu. It's on Hulu, and it's on a bunch of other platforms, Amazon.
Well, I'm going to watch it.
Listen, it's a crowd pleaser. You're gonna enjoy it, because a lot of the younger generation, they do enjoy it, because they're like, wow, that's what it was like back then, like beepers and music, and there were no phones, and no, there were phone booths, and there was like, yeah, you put some gas in your car and you cruised. And Again, a lot less problems and a lot less innocent. Those are just fantastic times.
Now,
So, you write what you know. You
yeah,
write what you know, and you work on what you know.
but you also write what you like too, right?
Yeah.
That's also important too. It's both. But
Yeah.
you often like what you like you're an expert of what you also like too, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
happens a lot.
I love Slice of Life. Again, Bricklayer's Poet, the film that I directed. Joe Maruso, who wrote it, again, he's a playwright and an incredible actor. His father was a bricklayer, and my father retired, was a bricklayer. I was like, I want to do this. I was passionate about it. I'm like, this is beautiful. And that you can find on YouTube. Just punch it in. I actually just uploaded it on YouTube because it was at a lot of festivals. It won the audience award at Vision Fest. But I finally kind of wanted to get it up there on YouTube and have people see it because it's a really beautiful piece of work. So
for sure. A film that I have seen that you were in is Martin Scorsese's The Irishman.
Okay, yes, a big.
Do you like the segue there? You know what I mean? Now this is a gangster film. It's an unusual, interesting take on a gangster film, but you did not play a gangster in this film.
I did not. And, Ellen Lewis, who casted me in the film, said I was up for 3 roles. She she didn't tell me what, 3 roles were, but towards the ending of the casting process, she said it was most likely going to be the mayor of Philadelphia. And, she straight up said to my agent, she said, most likely he's not going to have any lines, but he's going to have some, screen time with, the greats. You're going to be on a dais at a table with Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, in a room with Harvey Keitel, Stephen Graham, Catherine Narducci, Stephanie Caserba. You had Joe Pesci there. You had Dominic Lombardozzi. You had Harvey Keitel. All Ray Romano. They're all in the room, and she said it was going to be like a 5-day job, which wound up being almost like a 2-week job.
Yep.
So to me, I was like a little kid in a playground in a candy store. So the quick waving and being introduced as the mayor of Philadelphia, Frank Rizzo, who was based on a real guy, and getting to sit next to De Niro and Pacino for 2 weeks and getting to see them work and see Martin Scorsese direct was an absolute thrill to me.
Absolutely.
An absolute thrill. See, people tend to not realize that a 2 weeks working on a scene that Martin Scorsese shoots, your scene may last, a couple of seconds.
And I feel like The Irishman, because The Irishman was kind of released on Netflix, and I feel like it was one of those things where, we're seeing a huge wave right now of Netflix, of a lot of the content. I think the quarantine is a big help to that, but I feel like The Irishman was like that, this new wave from the last year or so. I feel like The Irishman was a part of that, you know what I mean? The Netflix wave.
Listen, again, I tell a lot of friends that were in it as well. It was a win-win. Nominated for Oscars. Did it win Oscars and crazy? No, but you guys still got to look at the good versus okay, you were nominated for 10 Academy Awards. And Martin Scorsese, most likely the last hurrah of all the greats in the film. Again, I know, the critics are going to have their good and bad.
Yeah.
But it's Martin Scorsese, okay? He did a few films like Taxi Driver and Goodfellas and Raging Bull and,
The Departed. I love The Departed.
The Departed was a fantastic
I love that movie.
I'll give you a little trivia about 2 Martin Scorsese films. Goodfellas and Departed were 2 films I saw in the theater, and I sat on the floor because they were sold out. But it was just very coincidental that I was sitting on the floor and watching. Who doesn't love to watch Martin Scorsese?
I think my parents said that they sat on the floor for Jurassic Park when it came out. I think that was the one for them that they said they were on.
And let's not forget the great Mean Streets, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gino, thank you so much for coming on Popternative, man.
You're welcome, buddy. I really appreciate the time. I had a lot of fun. I felt like you really kind of your stuff. You love movies and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But I'm taking a little different turn right now, though. I'm thinking outside the box. I just currently submitted my first manuscript to a publisher. I'm writing a children's book inspired by my daughter.
Cool.
And it's called Athena Visits the Marina, and it'll be out this fall. I'm really excited about that project. I just wanted to do for her. And
that's a nice little rhyme. I like that.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure out that
marketing?
How long did it take you to figure out that name?
Not too long. It came to me a couple of years ago. And again, I do the follow through. It takes a little bit. my big thing is you don't have to know how to do it. Just believe you're going to do it, and it'll all work out.
That's catchy though. It's riffy. That's a good name.
I didn't know how to write a children's book, but I figured it out on my own.
No, for sure. No,
it's going to be. And you know, I'd love to talk about that next year. Well, when it comes out, maybe we'll talk about the book.
100%. No, absolutely.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything? And they can see Capone now, right? Capone is out.
They can see Capone on all the platforms, depending on where you are, like Amazon Prime. You can see it on Verizon Fios. You could see it on just all the your local cable companies. Just the on demand button, you can get it.
Absolutely. And where can they follow you on social media?
At Gino Cafarelli on Instagram. I like IG.
Oh, IG. Absolutely. No, thank you so much for doing this, man.
PD Beats, I love that. Do you play music? Is that how you got the nickname?
I was a drummer. That's how I got a nickname. Yeah.
But you know, it'd be a great DJ name. Maybe you should.
It was my college radio name, DJ PD Beats.
So listen, I think you need
know a lot. We're riffing here. You get me.
Listen, you know what? Come 1 year under management of Cafarelli Productions. You'll be spinning beats in a pizza. You know.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. You be sure to watch Gino Cafarelli in Capone, which is out now. And until next time, this is Gino Cafarelli and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.